I'm going to take you kind of right back, and I'm going to talk about how we kind of cast you first, because this was kind of a weird one, because originally the film was going to be so different, right? And when they finally settled on I Am Rage, after some pretty terrible ideas, if I remember, it was going to be about a bear, a woman that turned into a bear.
And was that supposed to be native Indian or something? American. I was like, no, I'm not.
So anyway, we convinced them to do a female-led movie, and when they finally agreed on it, they were like, well, you've got like 4 weeks now to get the cast from the UK, because we had problems with the budget. There was a lot going on behind the scenes in I Am Rage. So they kind of left it for us to cast. And I was like, brilliant. Yes, I'll cast the movie myself. Then I realized, how am I going to find a woman that can act and is proficient at doing martial arts? It turns out it's a very niche market in the UK. And I don't know how we found you, but I remember your picture just kind of came up on a Facebook feed when we were looking for actors. So I was like, huh? And it said you did martial arts. So the first thing I saw was it was like martial arts reels. So then I was just like praying, can Hannah act? Can she act? Can she act? And luckily, you're a great actor. So like we at the time we're like, oh my God, like half the battle was finding someone that could act and also deliver doing the martial arts. And then obviously the rest kind of followed with finding you the ultimate baddie in Marta, who I think's like a baddie in real life. I think that's how she acts in real life. But, I was speaking to Derek about independent films, so I was curious how you kind of got involved in independent movies, because as you probably know now, independent movies vary in the production. Like when someone says an independent film, that can mean $5 million, or in our case, $250,000.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of get into it, and what's your experience working in these crazy movies?
How do I get involved in it? I guess it's when the opportunities arrive, really. And I guess I kind of vie more for the indie films because there's usually like more heart, I think, in them, and like more interesting and new stories coming out. People are always trying different things with indie films. If you compare it to like Hollywood, the standard Hollywood blockbuster now, and the constant like, superhero movies. Obviously there are Hollywood films coming out that are more interesting, but it's the indie films that are kind of, getting a bit more recognition as well.
Yeah, I think there's more ideas in indie films, because they're kind of pigeonholed as they move up. Like say studio films, they are all the same, and they don't take a risk.
Yeah, whereas I think in indie films, because there's slightly less budget, there's less pressure, I think, to sort of make everything like there's so many boxes to tick that the higher up you go, I think that when you have a bit more freedom, everyone has more fun. I think.
So how does it work? Because I did an interview with your agency, and it kind of got me thinking about actors, because it's quite brutal. Like when we used to get sent the reels, you'd be like, nope. So it's like, I never really thought about, like you guys do quite a lot of stuff to make sure your face gets out there.
Yeah, even just the headshot, like, because some people don't even get as far as looking at the show reel. It's literally just look at the headshot. No, so your headshot's got to stand out from everybody. And then everyone then goes, oh, let's go to this headshot photographer because he's really good. But if everyone goes to the same headshot photographer, then the headshot's no longer going to stand out. So it becomes like it's a game you have to play, trying to work out how to make yourself just stand out a little bit more. So the martial arts for me helps as well, obviously. But I didn't do martial arts just to stand out. I did martial arts because I love it. Literally, probably one of the reasons I wanted to become an actress, it is actually, is because of martial arts films, because of Resident Evil and Tomb Raider. I used to play Tomb Raider anyway. Those sorts of films. I watched them and thought, So it was like a goal anyway, rather than, I wasn't just trying to be niche. It just happened to be something that not many people are doing.
And like I quickly found out there isn't many martial artists that can act for screen.
No.
And maybe, I don't know, I never had to look at like the male categories. I'm sure there's heaps of guys like, but like especially for females, I found it really hard actually to find people that tick both the boxes, like to not only to be in the film but to lead the film. Like to. Sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry. It's just because it's hard to like dedicate yourself to both professions, because they're both really like hard professions to constantly put yourself into. So I suppose usually they pick one or the other.
Yeah.
And now they're starting to do it more where martial artists are trying to get into acting as well, and then standard actors are going, oh, actually, I'll do some martial arts, and it's that works as well. But I think if you have like a genuine passion for both, it is a bit more rare, I suppose. But,
so what do you think? Like, you're like a very good actress, clearly, obviously. But do you think doing the martial arts thing maybe is like kind of pigeonholing you in? Like, you probably get more, I would imagine, offered more action movies.
Yeah, I guess there is the risk of pigeonholing. I mean, I love the action, so it's not, I don't feel bad for it. But I did a comedy a year and a half ago, which was fun. Like I love doing other forms of acting as well, and dramas. I've done, I won awards for like sensitive dramas, but I guess there is that. I don't want to become known just for doing action, because I like the other side, which I like the emotional side. But if you can do the films where there's action, but then also the character has the emotion in it, you can show both.
Yeah, it's a weird one, and that brings me to I Am Rage.
Yeah.
Now, thinking back, like this, you're in this movie though. You're in the whole movie. Like the whole movie. Yeah. And I was speaking to Derek how like the production was such, it was kind of all over the place on different reasons. As far as fighting aside, you guys were really on the ball. Like, you really did know the script, and we could have really went and shot anything, and you guys would have been ready to do it. Yeah. But it's especially for you, because like, I wasn't exaggerating, you really are in nearly every scene of the movie.
Yeah, it was
so like like when you took on the movie, did you read the script and go, ooh?
No, because you didn't make it too dialogue heavy for me. If it was a lot of dialogue for me, as well as all the fighting, I might have been like, okay, because learning lines it takes a long time in itself. I'm actually pretty fast at learning lines. I have a knack for it, which I'm grateful for, because I've got a bit of a photographic memory. But yeah, I think you warned me at the very beginning that it was going to be a lot of action.
I did.
Yeah, and it was, but I was happy. I was like, yes, all the action. So I prepped my body beforehand and made sure I was I was like doing as much martial arts and cardio as possible, just so I wouldn't be like, get up with it.
And even though this film's getting it's going to get quite a wide release, and we were just talking about even some of the comments coming out now, but not a lot of people know that these indie movies, we shot this movie in 18 days. Yeah. 18 days. I mean, there wasn't really time for even to look around. It was a case of we were constantly just shooting and battling against the elements. So there is a lot of fights in this movie. There is. Like, we premiered the movie, and a lot of the audience after were like, I was surprised how much action martial arts there was in this film. And I was like, there was a lot of martial arts. But you came up, I can't remember, I know Derek was up maybe 6 days before.
I came up the same day as Derek, I think Martin, the same day, like a couple of hours after him.
And you really worked with the stunt coordinator Chris, who in a bigger movie, it wouldn't just be him. He would have like a team to help him do this kind of movies. But you guys really did train and nail down the fights so you were ready to go when it really did come time to shoot, because we were shooting so fast.
Yeah.
It never really occurred to us who were making the film, like, oh, how do they get on learning the fights? We were just like, right, you ready? Go.
Yeah. Well, it was hard because it was such a short amount of time to do it, because obviously we went up and then a few days later, I think 2 days later, Chris arrived. So we had like a chill couple of days just to sort of get our bearings, and then there was like I think 3 days of intense choreography. So I mean, for everyone, it was hard. So for me, because I was fighting everyone had their own specific fights. I think there was like four of them, 4, 5, I can't remember. Everyone had their fights. Some of them fighting me twice. So we'd go through all the choreography. But it was like a tag team on me. So it was like, okay, go, Hannah, fight this person. Yeah, Hannah, fight that person. And obviously physically it was hard. Mentally, like trying to remember what moves are for who was hard, but then everybody else, they remembered, so that helped me out, because I remembered, like, no, that can't do this now. I was like, okay. So yeah, everybody was amazing. But yeah, and then as soon as we finished choreography, the next day, I think we were filming, weren't we?
We were off, yeah.
Yeah, and I got an eye infection.
That's right. I remember when I spoke to Chris, I was quite vague when I talked about the martial art. I knew when we were going to do martial arts, I thought it should be quite hyper reality, as in you do spin kicks. There's not really any explanation, just looks cool. Yeah. So I was like, have you seen Hard Target? He's like, yes. I was like, let's make it like Hard Target. And that's all he basically, he went off. So I was constantly pushing him to make you do more, not stupid things, more visually stuff.
Yeah.
And I could tell at first he was a bit like, and I think it works. We'll tell when the film comes out, and it would be my fault for making it, not grounding it in reality. But I was wondering, what was your thoughts? Because I made you do I got Chris to make you do some pretty outlandish, over the top martial art moves.
Yeah.
They don't really have anything to do with the story.
No, but they look cool. Like the scorpion kick, I was like, yeah. And I think it's fun. And I think it's it has that like 80s action film feel, because a lot of them did that. Like the newer films, like the Bourne Identity and stuff, it's very much like Krav Maga and like very efficient. They get the job done quickly, which is cool. This has just got a slightly different feel to it. Mm-hmm. The whole concept is a bit, out there anyway. So I love it.
Like I always remember when I watched Hard Target, he shot the guy and then jumped up and did like a splits kick on him.
Yeah.
And then continued shooting him.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's the way to go.
It's fun.
That's exactly. That's what the movie, I hope when it comes out, people are like, it's a fun movie, which I think it is a fun movie.
The only thing with those moves I found, was just like I learned was the costume didn't quite lend itself to as many like high kicks, because without the boot, because the boots are heavy, the boots kept me warm when it was wet and cold, and I was really grateful. But when trying to do those high kicks, it just made it a little. You can see they just land a little bit heavier than than if I was wearing light shoes, I suppose. And I remember who it was. Chris said there's a famous martial artist who like always brings his own shoes to set, because he knows he can do like those crazy spinny kicks in those shoes. So like, I was like, oh, okay. Didn't work for that character, obviously, but yeah.
Because I remember one of the producers initially, one of the kind of remits for the film is Hannah must be in a tank top.
Oh yeah.
This is kind of based off of a successful film he did. And then obviously someone said, well, it was probably Chris. Well, she's going to have pads.
Yeah.
So at the last moment, we had to get you a jacket, which obviously makes perfect sense. And obviously, people might not notice this when they're watching the movie. We filmed in winter in Scotland.
Yeah.
So I can imagine the jacket was probably a welcomed thing for you.
Oh my God, yeah, I needed it. And also, yeah, like you said, for the pads, because I had to throw myself around a lot. Different stunts. Oh. Yeah, you need them for that. You know, there are a couple of scenes, like in the laboratory scene, the torture room scene, where I'm not wearing anything like that. I get it. It looks, a bit more interesting.
So the final fight in the movie, we actually shot that in half a day. On paper, it's like a 5-minute final fight, which I kind of trimmed down a little bit in the edit. But like, talk me through that, because there was one thing learning how the choreography.
Yeah, it's hard
choreography.
Yeah.
But on the day, I mean, we had it was raining and the surface was so boggy. I mean, that must have kind of made it hard for you guys
to keep your footing as you're trying to do the high kicks and stuff. Yeah, you sort of like go and then you fall over, and we had like little hand warmers and things in our pockets and stuff that you can't.
Oh, you did?
To get us. But to be honest, we went through it pretty quickly. Like we were able to like bash it out, because Marta and I had worked with Chris in the choreography like over and over and over and over again. So we knew what we were doing. Obviously, we'd had the days of choreography just before shooting, but then also in between, the days of shooting, we'd like, so I think we had Sundays off, didn't we? But we didn't have the Sundays off. We carried on like,
the
choreography was polished because there was just so many fights to make sure we're good, and on top form. And obviously, because we'd done the choreography in, I think it was the living room of the house, wasn't it? But then when it came to doing it on the actual sets, we were like, okay, maybe we have to change this, maybe we have to change that. So it's
I remember we were meant to shoot really early in the morning, right? And then there was some kind of mix-up, and Travis turned up with the crew, and I was like, "Where's the actors?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't take the actors," and I was just like, "Oh my!" So we lost 2 hours in the morning, and if you remember, it was just 2 cameras, handheld, and it was basically you guys just went at it for literally half a day. Until we started, the light was going down, and then we're like, we still do all the dialogue, and then we had to do all the dialogue. So
I had no voice left. I remember, because I'd been screaming so much in all the other things.
It was absolutely insane, and it probably is the highlight of the movie is the last 20 minutes, especially the end fight. I think has a payoff for people that like for me, watch the martial arts films. You always need the end.
Fight. Really gritty, like mud and blood. Like it feels really raw, doesn't it? Because
it looks like you're really hitting each other at certain points. Like before I put the sound effects in, I think Marta got you a couple of good times when you're.
Obviously we weren't in pain, but I think maybe she connected. I don't know. That's all a blur, but no, it was fun. And then like actually throwing me over, like it was, we probably went for it, but we practiced so many times that we could just completely safe. It was really
I can't remember any movies, honestly, or martial art film like this where like it's been 2 women, the last women standing that really duck it out for the finale of the movie.
Properly smacking into each other over and over and over. Yeah.
So I'm hoping that's like plays well with the audience. Like I noticed you've got another action movie coming out, fighting Marta again. Like a Dracula movie. How did that compare to I Am Rage? Was it as intense, or was it a bit more?
Oh no, it's nowhere near as intense. There's nowhere near as much action, because obviously I Am Rage is like full on action. The Wrath of Dracula is, it's set in the 1800s. For once, there's a lot more sort of oldie worldy English stuff going on in between. It's slower, but then the action side of it, I think my fight with Marta is the main fight again, and it's kind of middle-endish.
And she's still trying to get your blood.
She just keeps trying to get my blood. I was like, Marta. I know. But yeah, that's because so I got cast in that film, and the director asked me if I knew someone that could fight who was blonde, and I was like, Yeah, of course I did. Yeah, of course I wanted to fight Marta again.
And that's out pretty soon too, if I
That's coming out
remember.
at the end of August. Yeah, so literally there's going to be like a month between the two. It's all happening.
Yeah, I should maybe speed up on my post production.
Yeah.